All right, good morning, everybody. Glad to see a lot of people participating today. We have a decent little presentation to provide you guys for information. I was happy to see everybody at the CRAM meeting on Tuesday. Was it Tuesday? Yeah, it was Tuesday. On the Tuesday last week. Hope your meeting went well. So we're going to go ahead and begin. All right, so again, thank you for everybody for coming to our review today. It looks like a few people will be popping in and out as we go. Hopefully everybody can hear me. If you can't, try to get a hold of Paul or Brett and see if you can't work out what's going on. We are recording this, so it will be available hopefully by tomorrow on our website. All right, so let's get started. Again, for today, at least, let's try to do most of our questions through chat. If you really have a burning thing and you want to talk, you can unmute. But for the most part, I need to kind of, we only have an hour schedule or hour 15-minute schedule. So each topic I have a lot to cover in each topic. So we will have a spot at the end for open questions. We can go ahead and, take care of that. But I want to just try to let me get through the different topics and then we can kind of come back to it. I may ask questions during the different topics for you guys to discuss and then, get back to me. But, for the most part, this is kind of like a information, a dump from, Cogitate's perspective. A lot of people have been asking some of these questions. So for today's agenda, just so we cover what it is we're going to be talking about. First of all, I was going through the PowerPoint and it was really boring with just your standard set of graphics. So I decided to make the background of all of my slides some historical or important Michigan location, just so we can have something nicer to look at than just a crazy, I got this color, I got this printout from the software or something to look at. So hopefully you'll appreciate the look of that. It may be somewhat distracting, but still it's better while we talk about each one to look at to see something nicer in the background. All right, so we're going to start out by talking about a review of last year. Last year, we had our big meeting at the CRAM site, and we covered a lot of things and a lot of questions were answered. A lot of things were presented that we were going to do for last year. So that's kind of the review. I want to cover the CRAM issues. We had issues with CRAM. We're coming up with this new software thing. Everybody's got questions about it. What's our response? How we're going to deal with it. So I wanted to, cover that today. I also wanted to kind of give you an idea of what we're currently working on, what's going to be coming, soon down the pipeline. Things that we needed to, just to let you know that what's currently in the queue. Future coolness are just ideas that I have, but there's nothing really been discussed, looked at, decided upon, investigated on. These are just ideas I have, and so they're kind of subject to a whole wide range of things. So just so you understand, future coolness. And then the next 30 years, I wanted to talk about the longevity of Cogitate and what our prospects are, how we're going to go, yes, a lot of us are getting to retirement age. I'm not, but a lot of other people are. But then again, they want to know what's going to happen when George retires and when Brett retires. Where does Cogitate stand then? Because, right now we're kind of the centralized heart of the company. So again, to kind of cover that. And then I want you to have a background question in your head as we're going through today. And as you're thinking about the software a little bit, what do you want to see in the Pro Fund accounting? What do you want it to do? What do you want it to look like? What do you want it to have? What feature do we not have that's like, it'd be really nice if I had that or this or something like that in the software. So kind of think about that. And we will get back, you can get back to us on that in a little bit. All right, so Holland, Michigan, review of last year. So let's kind of take a look. The picture's nice now, and then eventually it gets kind of ugly because we got to put things in there, but you'll see. All right, so last year we talked about Luke moving on. So in May, Luke moved on after 10 years of service, and we had a lot of projects at that point kind of in motion. But he wanted to move on, so we let him, and we needed to replace him right away. So we hired Alex Hoffman on June 5th of 2022, and Alex is online with us right now. So Alex, can you say a big hi, hello there?
Hello.
So Alex is kind of our go-to coder. He is his fingers go faster than the speed of light sometimes, but certainly he is picking up on things, and he's been here now a year. And within that year, he has learned a lot of stuff about Cogitate and is continuing to learn things every day that he didn't know, and he's pretty excited about working here. We also talked about our billing system was way behind. Bills hadn't been paid in months and years. The accuracy of what was supposed to be billed versus what is being billed wasn't there. So then Paul got all of that squared away and updated on the Cogitate billing process in June of 2022. So he got new emails. He updated everybody's account to make sure that what they did pay was paid, what they didn't pay was paid. That took him, that was quite an effort that he did. So, we're very pleased that now our billing system is pretty much on top of it. And then Paul is, making sure that if you didn't get it or we didn't get a payment within a reasonable amount of time, he's calling to see if you got the invoice or if it just, because a lot of times emails just get missed because we get so many these days. We talked about moving to a managed data center, the cost it was going to take, and the things that were going to be happening for that. We decided on a data center, and all of our content got moved in August of 2022. And just so you know, we have not had any crashes or outages since that time on our website. Everything has stayed up and running. All the websites are still running. So knock on wood. We did a crash test a couple of months ago. Nobody was affected during the crash test. So, like I said, it was definitely worth our effort to have peace of mind that the actual data center for all of our web applications and web information is done in a way that's professionally maintained. Then yes, part of the getting a good data center was that we wanted to have a mobile-friendly, web-based employee time card entry system. That's a big mouthful, but it's the best way I can put it together. You wanted everything to work on a cell phone, whether it was an iPhone, an Android phone, or a T-Mobile, jack-in-the-box phone. You wanted the mobile-friendly. You wanted to also work on desktops. You wanted to be on kiosks. So we came up with the My Work, and we released that in October of 2022. Hang on a second. Cup of coffee here, sip of coffee here. So that got released. A lot of little, everything, after it's released has had tweaks to it, but we're basically, just want to let you know, we said we were going to do it. We did do it. Part of the discussion we had also was on an unimport utility. And so we developed it. The only unfortunate side was it wasn't going to be able to work with the older time card system, just the newer one. And it was also released on the same October, the same week with the My Work was released. We then, we're talking about replacing the barcode solution with more modern hardware. So the hardware we're using was crafted and made in 2023. It was, all the hardware we sent out, I think, was done in January 2023. So we are working on latest hardware. We updated the printer solution to work with the later printers from Zebra. So, and then we released all of that updated information to you guys to use, and it's been since March of 2023. that's been available for you to purchase. A lot of people got the replacement gun for the ones that had it, but you had to be kind of active on the barcode system to get the gun. We had utility to build Excel spreadsheets with PFA data. We talked about that a little bit. We showed kind of a little quick demo of it. We couldn't quite get all of that to go well, and during the demo it crashed. I kind of rewatched our little thing of it, but we did just release it just 2 days ago in our last update to everybody, so it is now available. And if you want to get to use it, you'll need to call us so we can set up the actual SQL statement for the initial part. But then once we're still working on a little bit parts of it to make it a more user friendly, so that you don't have to know all this crazy logic and stuff. But we still wanted it available so you could have something you could run on a regular basis and generate an Excel spreadsheet for a setting or a specific, look, I need to run this monthly or weekly or hourly or whatever your need is, that you would have a utility that you could easily create something or have us help you create something that you could run over and over and over again. So all of our last year projects that we talked about in the last year meetings, we nailed it. So we felt like we got everything done that we kind of talked about doing. And so, we're thinking we're in a good spot right now with our software. Now, that's just our perspective. Like I said, you guys might have another perspective. So I'm going to move on now to the, oh, come on, pop up. There it is. CRAM issues. So here's our Detroit Joe Louis monument that we have. So this is, CRAM. What we want to talk about is just to dispel, this is what we know from Cogitate's perspective in the meetings we've had. We don't know, we weren't, I don't know what happened during your presentation on Wednesday. I mean, I've heard some things, but obviously I don't want to repeat a falsehood. In other words, I want to just give facts that we do know. We do know that last year, CRAM created a committee that started a software search for accounting software. And during that time, they wanted to interview us and talk to us about a lot of things, and we were very open to doing that. But we were told it's not to replace Cogitate or Precision. And we were told that over and over and over again. Every time we talked to the committee meeting, they said, we're not trying to replace Cogitate or Precision. So now, we hear that they proposed a bill to get state grant money to seed a new company that will directly compete and ultimately replace Cogitate. So that's kind of like, all right, so did they mislead us? I would say most likely they did, unless somehow somebody's going to tell me at some point, no, this is not to replace us. However, when you get in bed with, multi-billion-dollar companies against, a little company like Cogitate, they're going to eventually try to swallow us up. So it's going to be very difficult for us to compete at a level, where if they want to. One of the things that we look at it as a business perspective from it is a big company like Sage or Crombie. They may say they want to get, into this and get a good slab of money to do the development, but ultimately it's not really in their best interest, and they're not going to get, 80 sales of their software. They're going to get, maybe 10 or 15 at the start, and then it will be a hard press for people to switch and change. So I don't see from a business perspective a large company really wanting to maintain that, and we've seen that time and time again. A big company like Taylor, they did something for one of the road commissions, and then they backed out after a couple of years. Same thing up north with Great Plains. They've developed something for the road commissions, and now they're just doing support only, no more development on it. just because, with, everybody's using either Precision or Cogitate at this point, you guys don't want to change your accounting software. There's not a huge thing for us to change. From what we've been told by, all of you guys, which has been nice, is that, you're not really looking to do the changes. Like, you're very happy with us. The other thing with big companies that we seem to, forget that they don't really have an investment and understand the state trunk line or the Act 51, the things that are kind of unique to Michigan. A larger company is not going to have their support team have, other than a, verbose, what's called a booklet, which means if they call and ask this question, this is the answer. So they're just reading off of what they call a hot sheet, so that they know, okay, if we get a call on this. And then, the other thing, of course, is, you're going to be a call center. You're not going to be talking with the people that understand and develop the software at a bigger company. It is going to be a, quote, support specialist that you'll have. And, sometimes they're easy to understand in English. They have good English, and other times they don't. And you're not going to get, a same person. So there's not going to be like a relationship that you'll be able to say, hey, this is so-and-so. And, we can talk a little bit, and, it won't be, that's not what they're there for. They're there to, get you off the phone as quickly as possible. And sometimes it's not, they'll have to say, oh, we'll have to call you back, because they won't know the answer right away because it's not on their call sheet. The question's not on the call sheet, so they have to go and put it up to tier 2 support. So again, the level of support will be a little bit tricky on, something that's new like that, and from a bigger company, because like I said, they've got, 17,000 customers they're supporting. So obviously their call center has to be a generic, call center and not have anything specific. So if the state does provide the money, and again, it hasn't gone through all of the, the governor has to sign it and the Senate has to approve it, so we're still kind of in flux on that for the short term at least. But if the state does, Cogitate does feel that we should, we in Precision should be able to submit and request to get some of that state funds to do development. But if not, if they completely shut us out, that's up to the CRAM board. But at least we should have the ability to request it. We shouldn't just be locked out from even saying, here's our proposal for what we would do with some of the money, kind of a thing. So, we feel that they shouldn't just completely shut us out of that. So what does Cogitate do in the next thing? I mean, we're kind of waiting in the lieu of this, whether the money's going to be there, whether we're going to be able to do it. So kind of like, just so you get the kind of the understanding of where Cogitate's feeling as far as the company and what our next steps are going to be. I mean, we are kind of disappointed in CRAM to sponsor such a committee that just, it really negatively affects our company and our ability to do things. So sorry about that. That affects our company. So we're, we have to consider what we, our only recourse right now is to say, do we want to continue to support CRAM itself for, doing that, for providing the thing. Now, obviously, CRAM doesn't really provide it, but there's still, nobody said, hey, what does this do for the existing places? So, it's my understanding that Precision is kind of the driver of this. And we don't want, Cogitate wasn't a problem, but it's still, it would have been nice if, we could have said, okay, let's see if Cogitate can do the things. And I was never told, and then there's something said that, about Cogitate in the meeting that I had no idea. I don't know how they got this information. I don't know what they were saying during that meeting, but we have never been contacted about developing anything. We were asked one question: what would I do if I got the money? And I guess they didn't like my answer, but there's, as far as 3 times as long or 3 times the cost, I don't know where all of those things came from. The other part is like I said, I don't want to hurt my customers, but it's just very difficult for me to support an organization that is supporting my ultimate demise. So I think you guys can understand that. So if in the next year or two you see that Cogitate's not even an associate member of CRAM anymore, and that we're not, doing events anymore, you kind of understand why, at least. But let's see how it plays out. I'm going to still support CRAM right now. I'm not stopping the today. I'm just letting you know that if this continues and they do get the software and we don't get a chance, we request it, and there's nothing really to provide support for us from CRAM, then yeah, we'll probably stop, providing anything to CRAM, and the meetings as far as support and sponsorship. Okay, so, unpleasant, but it is what it is. All right, so let's move on to our current project. This is currently what we're working on. We've already got, many development hours into each one of these projects I'm going to talk about, just so you understand, so they'll be coming soon. I don't like giving time frames because it just puts undue pressure, and some of the stuff we don't need for any given specific time frame. It just, when it shows up, we're happy. The first one is the ACA and 1099 e-filing. The federal government has decided that if you're going to have your ACA, I think it's the 1095, 1096s and 7s, 1094, those reports, you used to be able to send in a piece of paper with them. You're no longer going to be able to do that. You have to e-file them. Same thing with the 1099s. If you have more than 10, you have to e-file your 1099s. To the federal government, and they've opened up, the things on that. So everybody understands that at the end of this year, there'll be an update that your ACA and your 1099 filing will have to be electronic. But in order to do that electronic, you're going to have to set up for your for whatever road commission you're in, an ID.me login, because the state and the federal government, a lot of places have all gone to this ID.me, which is a way to give a more secure login to verify who you are is really who you are. It's kind of a funky little process you have to go through with your cell phone, with photographs and facial recognition with a camera. So again, and this takes a while. This isn't like you can just, today I'm going to sign up for an ID.me and tomorrow I have it. No. You have to, sometimes this can take up to 40, 50 days to get. So I want to make sure everybody has an ID.me login. And once you have the login, once that's been verified, then you have to request the ACA and 1099 e-file options to be added to your ID.me login. And then at the same time, you might as well add your W-2s and W-3 login, things for doing the, other part. So they're kind of all centralizing with a single ID.me login at the state or at the federal government level. So we want to make sure that all of those things are still there. And you get going on that, now before it's, you can't do it, or you got to wait, or you're going to be late because, you have to wait for the ID.me to be approved. As well as when you sign up for the ACA and the 1099 to get added to your ID login, it takes time. They are actually verifying and checking things at the federal government for these things to happen. So I want to make sure you guys are aware you're going to need this little thing now. So you can, follow through the steps. There's a bunch of steps that are out there that's all published on the, SSA.gov and the IRS.gov. So the same place the SBA.gov, where you go to do your W-2s and send those in. It's all of that stuff you'll see where they can log in with an ID.me login versus your older login. Now, they did say the older logins will still continue to work for the individual ones, but for the ACA and the 1099, that's a brand new thing they added this year. So because of that, those are only ID.me logins. So in other words, get an ID.me login situation going so that you have that available. Okay, so then we have, we're doing a lot of internal updates to improve stability in the software, as well as the idea is we're trying to generate a platform we can keep building on. And some of our platform has kind of given way under the weight of all of the software that we have. When you're building a huge system, you have to be thinking about a lot of things, and we kind of miss. We're learning as we're going as well, and we kind of missed a few things. So we're doing some more updates. We're doing things internally. You don't really see a lot of that, nor do I want to bore you to death with development. How do we do this? Now we're building that, but just be aware that certain things will change a little bit. Some screens might have a little different pieces on it, but in the end, it's to provide a much more stable environment and not have so many hiccups during when we release things. We're currently converting reports into IntelliReports, and in that process, we're trying to do things like consolidate reports so we don't have 3 different reports for the same thing that just have 1 extra column added, or have a different kind of flair of the columns, or ask for different parameters. So we're trying to combine that same report to a bigger report that might have a lot of parameters. So to run the report, it might be a little more confusing, but the number of reports that we have to pick from then is much smaller. And we're doing that so that as internal pieces change, or there's a new way we're processing, for instance, inventory, we don't have 60 reports that we have to update. We have 17 or 20 reports to update, so that they're actively getting the way the new inventory is being managed. So that's an ongoing process that'll be going on probably for many, many, many years. Each section right now, we're in the accounts payable. We decided to start there. So in the accounts payable, we're looking at a lot of things, but I'll try to send out what accounts payable reports do you definitely not want to see go away. Now, the ones that are already in IntelliReports, they're not going to go away, but they may get more parameters added to it because there's another one very like it or similar to it. So you'll be seeing some emails coming across through our email channel. So make sure you're signed up for that if you're not. Obviously, you should be, because you wouldn't be here if you weren't. But we want to make sure you understand, we're going to be doing that over the course of the next little while. So it's an ongoing project that how I explain it. It's kind of like the never-ending story. We have 692 reports right now. So it's going to take us a while to get through that, as well as, which reports are we going to consolidate. So it's a time-consuming process, but, if we never start, we never finish. All right, we've been having this issue come up because, 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, you should have gotten stuff on your administrative channel for whatever provider you're on. We got it from Microsoft for 365. They sent it to our admin that said, well, they're no longer going to support external applications sending email to, on behalf of a 365 user. So what they did is that if you still need to do that, there's a way you set up a what's called an API key or an API login that will allow people to send it. Now, Gmail has done this. Yahoo has done this. There's a different one for Microsoft Live versus Microsoft Outlook. So it's you have to kind of feel a way around it and look at your projects, because there's just a lot, each individual place has got their own method of how they're going to handle the API situation. Now, why did they do this? Why is this happening? And mainly because of spam. People would get their email list compromised because a little program was running on the background of their machine that got infected and went through their things and sent emails to everybody from that. So that's why they're saying, internal programs that send emails are no longer going to allow. So you have to have this magical little API thing set up. And again, each one's different. And we're also, Cogitate's also looking at trying to provide a little bit better, possibly even, our own internal one that we use, so that, to be able to send that, to expose that for you guys. But we're just looking into the legal ramifications of doing that with our email provider. so that you don't have to set up anything. You just, this is like things like if you're sending emails for the call logging, or you're sending emails for, some of the other places where we have an email as our method of communicating, inside of our software. So, again, we're looking at what we can do to make it better. We've been spending some time with, like I said, just it's an ongoing process. We're currently looking at how to make it better. We just haven't come up with exactly what we're going to do with it yet, but it is something you'll see in the next, I would say 6 to 8 months, you'll see something happening on this front for being able to, if you can't send emails with your current accounts or they stop working. One of the things that has happened is Microsoft has gone to say, with the Microsoft 365 in December, they said their servers are going to be slowly over the next 6 to 8 months be migrated off to no longer allow the SMTP login. They'll have to use the auth login, the auth ID login. Again, it's an internal thing. Don't worry about it. If your email is working now, great. It may stop working at some point, but then there'll be a way to get it to go again. It's just a pain because you kind of have to have a IT guy, research on Cogitate side. We'll try to do our best to help you get to at least the document that describes how to do it. But we don't feel like we should be, trying to figure out how to make your 365 go. We'll help you get there. We'll get you the documentation, how to get it to go. But, it's kind of beyond the scope of the actual software. And again, at some point we'll probably have something that we provide, but we just have to get there. It's just a process. It takes a while to figure out how to do that. And as far as there's legal ramifications on sending email, and then if somebody marks it as spam, that's kind of our problem. If anything gets marked as spam on our email, it stops you from getting any email from Cogitate. So we want to be kind of careful on some of this. Future coolness, these are just ideas that we have. This is kind of where we want to look going forward. These are like big ideas that'd be like really cool if we could do this. We really want to do, these are things we want to do, but these are our ideas. And, maybe they're not, maybe we're doing them out of order and there's a better order in which we want to do them in. We want to get some feedback from you to, help us with, we want that to happen at some point. We would rather have this before that, in other words. So let's just kind of cover what we think. Right now, we have the MyWork software sitting out there. It's doing the time card thing. It's working really smoothly for the 3 customers that are on it right now. And eventually more and more will be getting on it as over the time, but it's just working so well. But we want to add some things to it. We want to add like W4 management. So your users, so your employees just sign into the MyWork and they put their own W4 in. I want this number of things and that. And so they don't have to do a paper one, and something like that would get submitted. There's a bunch of IRS rules that we've read through about that and kind of looked at it. And, we think we can manage it all basically on the online web. That we can do what's called a web signature on it, for employees to sign, as well as that. We also want to add something where employees can see their current pay stubs or the pay stubs last month, 2 months ago. This is kind of helpful on, in a lot of fronts where, businesses will say, if they're going to get a car loan or something like that, they want to see the last 3 pay stubs. Well, voila, here's it on my phone to sign in. They can print off the last 3 pay stubs. If they have it, at least if they have an Android phone. iPhone's a little more trickier to print, but if they do have that ability at the place, they can do it. W-2s, the same thing. We'd like to be able to have a way or a mechanism that you can turn on being able to see the W-2s for the year once you're ready with it. So you release that year's W-2s. And so, employees can sign in and see this year's W-2, last year's W-2, the previous year's W-2, is things like that. So we want to be able to add that to the MyWork. But again, we haven't really done much to, these are all, like I said, future coolness. We haven't really spent much time on how we would do that. So then there's inventory. Inventory is a big, huge process. So there's a lot of things going on in inventory. But we want to, our thinking on inventory is that it'd be cool if we could split it up a little bit and say, like the barcode, we have a charging, we have, and we kind of separate charging from receiving. So it's not it's not one app that has a lot of complication in it. It's, simpler apps that have less complication, but they only kind of do one part of the process. So like if you're going to charge something out in inventory, you got a bunch of charges, you go into the charge thing, you charge them out. Then when you're receiving, you go into the receiving part of inventory and you receive that stuff in. Part of that also would be upgrading the purchase order system, to do that, as well as we want to, do something about splitting up inventory maintenance a little bit so that we have there's a part that will manage better the reordering and, setting up a reorder process from what we have, because right now it's fairly limited, but we want to expand on that, and make it better. So that's kind of what we're looking at inventory, as well as other things we might do with inventory. We just, again, a lot of, we got to think about it. We got to investigate it. We want to talk with you guys about these things to see where you'd want to take it. Employee management's a big one, because there's part of, employee maintenance right now. When you go in there, you have part that's kind of like an HR part that's kind of like more for payroll. So we kind of want to split employee management up, between the different screens. So we have some of it's in HR, some of it's in payroll. Again, what that split up will look like, what pieces go where. I would like to hear from you guys on that. We've got other pieces in there that we want to add, but again, until we can get the split up to happen, we're looking, it's kind of limited on what we can add, in other words. Same thing with equipment. We're looking at splitting out work orders to be separate from equipment maintenance. We're looking at how the fixed assets ties in with equipment to make that a little bit more smooth, because we feel like it's kind of clunky in some places, especially when you have one piece of equipment that has 2 or 3 different fixed asset records, tied to it. Makes it tricky to kind of see that. It doesn't really stand out to say, oh yes, we have, these other pieces with it because we did a body rebuild or we did an engine rebuild. So the engine has got, a different fixed asset from the, the base piece of, base truck itself. So again, we want to look at how all that's put together, examine it, see what we can do to make it, better, smoother, easier to use, things like that. But there again, we haven't done anything on it. It's just what we think you guys would like us to do. But we want to hear from you guys. So if you kind of remember, first screen, we talked about what do you want to see in PFA? This is what we're talking about. I need to know what you guys want to see in PFA. What do you really want us to do with this software? What would make it way better if we did this right now and then added, maybe come back to inventory or equipment, or we really want this other piece before you do anything else. We're limited. We have limited resources, but part of that is because we keep our costs and, we try to keep our charges for this stuff in check. So we don't want to be like, oh yes, we want, $50,000 a year in support. Yeah, if I could have 10 more employees, then sure, we could do this stuff, much quicker. But like, I'm trying to say is over the years, we have really, really been keeping our costs minimal, for road commissions so that we're not, a huge task or a huge, expense to the road commission for the software. Maybe that's been to our detriment. But, this is kind of our philosophy and kind of the way we look at things, which kind of leads us right into the next screen. Okay, so that kind of covers our future coolness and what it is. So think about what it is you would like to see in Pro Fund Accounting. Think about what it is you'd like it to do first before anything else. And we'll try to get, some emails going where we can discuss this and, get feedback from you guys in a way that doesn't, you don't have to sit in a real meeting and raise your hand and, everybody says boo, you don't have to feel that way. Because everybody's different. That's the other thing you need to understand every road commission is different. And we tried to provide things that are going to help all road commissions as a priority over, our road commission does this one little thing differently. Could you do that? So you need to, as you're thinking about this, think about what all road commissions could really benefit from. All right, so covering the next 30 years. Everybody said, oh, what's going to happen to Cogitate over the next 30 years? So let's just talk about what Cogitate, kind of our direction. We get 80% of our revenue directly from the road commissions. So we're dedicated to you guys. We want to make sure the road commissions are happy. We want to make sure the software works perfectly for road commissions before we do anything else. It's very important to us. So our direction, may have to change, because if all of a sudden road commissions aren't really going to be a big thing for us, we're going to have to, switch direction. But as of right now, this next year, we're going to be directed toward the road commission still. There's nothing going to change that this year, until we find out what happens with the CRAM and the board, and are we going to be considered a shunned piece of software, where if you're using quote Cogitate, you're in the minority, and you should be switching over to one of the new platforms. I don't know what the pressure is going to be for migrating on that. We have to see what that's going to be. That will change some of our direction, based on that. Like any good company, I mean, we want to stay in business, as well. But right now, we are dedicated to road commissions. Support, part of that direction is that we want to provide, support you guys. I mean, even right here before the meeting, I just had a call. We went through it and we, addressed what the issue was, found out what it is, and you're on the phone, you're off the phone when you call us. It's not, we're trying to provide that, first time call support. That's you understand that does take a toll on the day when you're trying to do development, because we're stopping our development to help you, but that's what we want to do. We're not trying to be a software that has everything, every bell and whistle in it. We're trying to really be, the pieces that you really need, and then support those pieces very well. Kind of a thing. I wanted to mention, nothing is of course guaranteed. I mean, obviously, buses can hit people in cars, and planes can fall out of the air, and viruses can infect people, and do things that way. So while we're doing our best we can in our current the current state of where with COVID and all these other things going on, nothing's really guaranteed. But we are planning on these kind of things, and so there is a plan in place for that. So right now, the current plan is, over the next, course of a few years, Paul's going to step into being the president, and I'm basically going to help support Paul. So, I won't really be president. I won't really be the chief guy to talk to about, oh, what's the next thing? What's going on? I won't be doing these meetings. Paul will be. But that's, over time. I mean, Paul's only been here a year, or a little over a year. And while he's doing great and he's learning, he's got a lot to learn. And, I'm here for at least the next 6 years as a minimum, because that's when my final child will be going off to college. So, but even then, if they're going off to college, I'm going to need to be here for the next 8 years, because I got to pay for college. So you get the idea. I'm not really going to be heading out anytime super soon, but I'm training Paul to be the next president, the next leader of Cogitate. So you can understand that's that's what's happening over the next little while. And then again, we want to reemphasize, we always want to provide the best service. We want to make sure that you don't feel scared to call Cogitate. You don't feel like it's a burden to call Cogitate. We want you to call us. It's really important that you do. If you've got a problem, call. We usually have a solution. Sometimes we can go behind the scenes and make something that's hard really easy. And we don't mind doing it. It's just not, part of our business philosophy is that's part of what we're doing. We don't want to have a specialized call desk that only knows the 5 answers to the 5 questions. And we want to make sure that, you guys are supported in a way that makes everything exciting and happy. and gives you the answers you're needing when you need them. Because usually when you're calling, it's not because, oh, I've got 6 months before I have to have this. It's I need it now. So, we're doing our best to provide the I need it now answers now. I do understand that there's a whole, we've got a sort of a new generation coming up. We spent the last year providing a ton of online video for people to watch those videos and learn. Now, some people don't learn from videos. I don't have a good course of action right now to get the printed document to, completely filled up with that, but I'm working on it, so again, we're trying to do what we can. We have some training videos out there that people haven't realized that we've done. We've talked about it in different webinars, but there's training videos out there that might be like, okay, that don't really talk about the pieces, but they talk about how the processes work. How do you do, what goes before what? How can you use the piece a little bit better, but more of just kind of like overall, this is what we do. This is how you do payroll. This is how you do an accounts payable. This is how you would pay an accounts payable. So just simple training videos out there that cover in a more of a generic. I mean, every location has their own, like for instance, if you're going to pay an invoice, sometimes have a stamp. You have to stamp the invoice as paid. You have to squeeze the thing on the invoice as paid. You have to mark it as paid. You have to scan it into something else that says it's paid. A lot of different things. We don't have that, of course, but we just have, if you're going to post an invoice, you post it this way, you put in your account numbers, you save it, you commit it, so we kind of go through those processes. So that training's out there and available. You can it's right there on the, right from the main menu, right at the bottom of the menu. If you click on the training, the little video button at the bottom, it'll go to our thing and show you the training side. So we're trying to do our best to fill that in, but that kind of takes sometimes a backseat because we really want the software to be enhanced, not have it's a balancing act, in other words. And so we err more towards developing new things than we do keeping the documentation completely up to date. And again, it's mainly because it's just our resources are limited. Each day is usually we're happy to give just small amounts each day, as they say, baby steps. So we're not a big huge company. I don't have 30 developers and five technical support writers. It's of course my skills themselves are not geared toward the English language. I can usually speak it, but after a few beers, that's even debatable. All right, so let's move on to questions and answers. This is open for you guys to ask any question about any topic I talked about today. If you want to unmute and ask it, you can. If you want to type it into the notes, Paul will read back to any question that has been typed in the chat so far. All right, Paul, let's start with you. Is there anything in chat right now that's been asked? Don't hear you, Paul.
It's just a comment.
Okay, what's that?
It says, getting support when we call is very important, and I appreciate that aspect of Cogitate.
Okay, so somebody has already, indicated that, support is important. I really think it is. I think, it makes it, I want to make it so that you guys have a good feeling about it. It's not that it's, oh, we have to call support, it's a difficult thing. It should be, yeah, I can't quite figure it out or something's not working the way it should be. Call support and we'll help you. I don't want it to be, again, are we really trying to foster a relationship that it isn't we're trying to do our side to say, we want to make sure that on the phone we are, courteous, kind, understanding, and, empathetic, to the situation, and we try to help bring a solution to it. Now there are bad days, so my kids have been telling me I've been getting worse and worse on being empathetic. So I apologize if you get a hold of me and it's not working. And I'm not quite as understanding as I used to be, but it comes with age, I guess, is what I've been told. Okay, so any other questions?
Oh yes, we got several.
Okay.
First one is, with the changes to the accountant manual, do you anticipate creating a migration tool for account number changes?
I've already created the tool. It's not necessarily a tool, but it's a way to help when you do it. The changeover is not an automatic. There's two kinds of changes that differ. And again, it's mainly because I want to give options. You can certainly go in and just say, look, I want to change, the old equipment questionnaire number was this, the new equipment, not questionnaire, the equipment rental. I'm going to use that as the example because that's the one I know of off the top of my head. The old equipment rental number was this, the new one is a new number. So we have the utility right now where you could rename the current one to a new one and it would change all the history and all that. Some people don't want that. Some people just say, hey, I just want to go to the new one. So again, because they've already been partly in the year, we have a utility that allows you to just go from, anything that was posted to the old number from this date forward, I want it to be said to be posted to this new number. So that utility is out there, and I believe that ended up in tools, Paul. I can't hear you, Paul.
Sorry. Yeah, I believe so. I'm just quickly confirming that. Yes.
Yeah,
It's
so
under posting.
under posting and tools, there's what's it called?
Modify transactions accounts.
Yeah, modify the transaction account. So any transaction that was written to the old EQU, you can make it to the new one. Now you also there's also parts in the software where you set that up. So like for instance, for the equipment rental, that account number is set up in the funds as well. So when you create your new one, you want to go to funds and change the fund link to be pointing to the new one. So we use that new number from this point forward whenever we're doing the equipment rental, when you're doing equipment and payroll. So I keep calling it equipment rental. It's not that. Okay, I apologize for mixing it up, but it's, but to get the understanding, we're not going to build a utility that's going to automatically do them all because everybody's a little bit different. So, and I want to, to support that, I'm doing the best, the best option was to say, let's build a utility that allows them to just change it from a certain point forward, instead of saying they have to change all their history, because they may want to keep, those reports and everything intact from 2 years ago. Next question.
Next question is along the same lines as how do we change our accounts to the new treasury accounts? Again,
we have, the utility says, give me your, for if you want to change the actual account or do you want to create the new account, it's kind of an option. You have to kind of decide how you want things to look. If you change the existing account, you realize that if you go back 5 years ago, it's going to show the new account number and not the old one. Some auditors are okay with that. Others say, nay, nay, nay. We want to make sure that our end balance is this account number and we start our new year balance with the new account number. So as far as utilities, like I said, we only have 2 utilities, one that will change it everywhere for you to a new number. You just go in, put the old number in, put the new number in. And we ask that while you're doing these, try to make sure nobody else is in the software at all. It's just because, if somebody was posting to that number while we're doing it, we may miss one because we don't know what somebody still is waiting to commit. So we want to make sure that, everything is, proper. So you just kind of wait. You don't have to shut down the time card. That won't, the time card piece isn't going to be a problem, but at least the, making sure nobody's posting anything when you're going to do that. And it's going to make you reboot or it's going to log you out and log you in several times. So, but again, it's just a matter of, it's not that many. It's not like there's 200 or 300 changes. So we felt like a utility is going to say, well, I'm not using the A517. I'm just using, 517 is not the right number, but you know what I'm saying? I'm not, the different account numbers structures are different at different locations. So we want to continue to support that uniqueness that you guys have decided upon. I hope that answers the question, but maybe not. If not, post another one and we'll come back to it. Next question.
Is there a possibility of having invoices scanned in and attached in the AP section of Cogitate? So we can
Absolutely,
click-
absolutely. We can certainly add document management. I've done a cursory look, which means I spent one day looking at different options of how we would store, manage the documents that you're scanning in. And that's where the big question that I would have to come back to you guys with is, we could put it inside the database, but, pretty much that really means you're going to have to purchase a real license of SQL Server. And the free one is no longer going to, work for that kind of a operation. As well as you're limited to 8 gig of total space. So that really is limiting when you're talking about scanning in things. So there's another option that I can do, but that's going to require some sharing being set up on your server for where it goes. Some of you have it, some of you don't. But basically I would be able to store the file that gets scanned, and placed into the system rather than I'm actually providing the storage for it. It also means that backups are going to need to, make sure. So you see how it can get, just a simple thing like that, can get quite extensive on, how do you manage it well. But, we certainly can look into it. We certainly can put something like that together. But, I'm going to want a lot of people, we're going to want a lot of buy-in on that to say, this is what we're going to do. So then I will spend the development time on doing it. It's not like this. The answer is no. It's just, I found a lot of internal questions that need to be answered first before, and something that may not work at one location will work at another. I'm not going to do it 3 different ways. I'm going to do it one way, and we'll just, if it's not going to work, you just can't turn that feature on, kind of a thing. Because like I said, there's just a lot of ways of storing this stuff and what's going to be the best answer so that it's either an unlimited amount or limited by the hard drive size of your storage location where you're putting the documents you're scanning. So hopefully that makes sense. But can we? Yes, we certainly can. It's not, it's not like it's something we don't know how to do. It's just, again, it's how to manage the resources and doing that well.
Another comment was, thanks, George, for everything, and thanks again for putting money on tab for us at the reception.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, you guys needed to, I was looking at it, it's like nobody was having a good time. So I said, hey, we gotta let people get something and be able to feel like they can just get it and don't have to cough up $60 for a beer. Any other questions?
A couple of comments saying that the scanning would be amazing.
Okay. Anything else? I mean, keep reading through them, Paul. I don't want anybody's voice not heard today.
Okay. Mason County Road Commission likes the quick support we get when we call.
Yep. All right. Well, you're very welcome, by the way.
Hey, George, can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Steve Watson.
Hey, Steve.
How are you coming on the inventory barcode scanners with
They're
the
done.
new?
We released it.
What
March.
about this? What about the scanners though?
Yeah, March. The brand new scanners.
Okay, because
You should have got. You should have. If you were still paying for support on the old one, you got a new one for free.
okay, I'll talk to you then
Okay.
individually. And thanks for hanging in there with us. Well, it's pretty well known that I don't necessarily agree with a lot of things that CRA, and I certainly don't with this stuff that they're doing with the software. And I'll just put that out there for everybody in this group to hear. The feeling is not mutual that everybody wants a new program, George. Just so
it's just like I feel like for me, it's been kind of a sucker punch. Cogitate's been here for 20 years in trying to do our dangdest with, keeping our cost in check and, making
and they
sure
turned that around on you.
Yeah, and now they said, oh, well, this isn't, blah, blah, blah. And then they started to say things at that meeting. I understood there is I've got some quotes from the meeting that are like, I never said this. I don't recall ever saying this. I don't think I would have said it this way. But then they, it's like 3 times the cost and 3 times the time. Well, what is it they want? They never told me what they want from the meeting. I was asked things like, what would you do with the money? Well, again, my ideas are not always the ideas that, so they didn't say what they wanted. They just said, what would I do? And that's like, now they're coming back and saying, well, they said they wouldn't do this. And now Precision might have said that, but I certainly didn't say that.
Well, it was totally wrong with what they did last year at the finance conference. Have you and Precision both be sponsors and be there and do all that stuff and then turn around and promote a new software basically right in your faces.
Right, exactly.
So,
And then again, they did it this year. They had a meeting on Wednesday, I understand, to do the same thing this year. So again, it makes it hard for me to sponsor CRAM anymore. But again, I mean, if I don't sponsor it, it hurts you guys more than it really hurts, you know what I'm saying? You get the idea. If I'm not there buying the beers, then
right. They're searching for a solution that where a problem didn't necessarily exist in everyone's mind. So
no, but it did exist. I understand there is some bigger issues on the Precision side of the equation. But ultimately their answer there is, going to hurt the Cogitate side, so.
We got another question.
Yes.
One of the things the committee has said is an issue is not being cloud-based and is able to work with other software. Can you speak on that? Is that necessary?
Well, okay, everybody says they want to be, cloud-based, and I could understand that you want something to be on the web, so that way, basically, you could be able to access it anytime, anywhere, and do things. There's some downsides of being on the web. You don't have control over the data. That data's on their website, and it's up to them if they're going to update it or change it. You don't have, I don't want the update. They're going to happen regardless. So again, there's no vote in what's going to happen. Also with web-based software, that you're not going to get your version or your flavor of it. You're going to end up with the generic, because there's not a single place that's going to have, oh, you get this version of the software when you sign into our servers. So again, being that way, it's not there. Do you want us to be on the web? I can certainly move us all to the web, but that's going to be a little bit bigger of a task. And if that's what you all want, hey, we can do it. It's not like we can't. I mean, we proved that we know how to do it with doing the time card on the web. We're just, it's one of these things where it's like, I don't know if that's the best thing for road commissions, because some road commissions don't have great web access, to the internet everywhere at other places. Some do, some, but you'll get, I don't know if you've used, a large software on the web either. That's the other thing. Most people don't understand, a big software on the web is not always the easiest to get and navigate around. So it's not going to be, it's not just like any desktop you see. There's a lot of on a website, there's a lot of trade-offs you have to make in order for things to work smoothly. Printing is another big one on a web. When you're trying to print something, it can take a bit. A lot of places end up downloading a PDF and then you print the PDF. Just because any online printing is, kind of a mixed bag. So sometimes the print, just a technical thing. It's just, so again, there's just, again, we can certainly do all of that. It's not like we don't have the ability to do it. It's not like we don't know what we're doing, that we couldn't do it. It's more of, I don't know if that's going to be the best thing for, a smaller road, the smaller road commissions. I'm positive it's not the best thing for larger ones. Now, interacting with other software, that I have a huge, I'm not sure what the heck they're talking about there. What software would you want to interact with online? Are you going to use something else to do all of your, there's software out there that will do like all of your accounts receivable. So you could, marry an image with that. Could we marry it in with that? Sure, we can. Just means that when you do that, you'll have to be, you have to have a web going, in order to do that when you're running the Pro Fund. But I mean, we do that now. We have a piece of software that we talk to for one of our other products, Utilability, where it sends where the provider that we talk to basically prints all of their, it's for Utilability, you have to print the water bills, or the, utility bills. We have a third-party provider that we send the information to, so it will print the bills for somebody. So that you wouldn't be printing it, just you send this big file to them and it prints all the bills. I mean, kind of we're doing that as well with the W-2s and we're working with those to send, to be able to send those. We work with your bank to send your direct deposit. So I'm working with other software. I don't know where that's coming from, but evidently there's something there that they're trying to say we don't do that we do. I mean, if that doesn't answer your question, if you've got something specific, you can talk to me individually, or you can post another question and, Paul will read it. But I want to hear from you guys. I mean, if you really want this thing to be all web-based, we have no problem doing that. It's just it's a different direction. We need to start working in that direction now on it. If that's what you want. But like I said, I don't know if that's going to be the best thing long-term for the road commissions.
We have a bunch of more comments.
Okay.
One is, thank you to you and your team for work you put into updating the software over the past year. The videos are helpful. The update emails bullet pointing the new updates make it easy to see at glance what changes have occurred.
Okay. Thank you for your statement. It's very helpful that other people hear that.
There's several supporting you guys
You
agreeing
got-
with what Steve said.
You got to read through them, Paul. You
Okay,
can't just say
there's
several.
100% I agree with Steve.
Okay.
I agree with you, Steve. We are very happy with Cogitate. I support Steve's statements as well. Here's an important one. We have a group of us that meet a few times per year to help us use Cogitate more efficiently. We are working with each other to become more efficient in our tasks. Even though we do many things differently each road commission, we are learning a lot to improve the use of Cogitate. We'll keep you posted when our group comes up with suggestions for changes and improvements.
Yeah, if groups, when you guys are doing groups like that, it's very helpful to get from the group, because you've already gone through and said to your group, well, what if we made this, suggestion? The guy said, oh, wait a minute, we don't do our fixed assets this way, or we don't do our quarterly reports that way, or we don't do our year-end or our monthly closings this way. We have this process, and that would break us, because I can't, I don't really know how everybody does each of their processes to know if we make a change, what it breaks. I do my best to try to keep as flexible as possible, within the guidelines of what's in the County Road Commission's manual.
So we have another comment underneath that. Someone said they'd really love to be a part of that. So you can make sure people, if they want to be a part of that, we don't know about it. So I guess someone else would have
it's
to,
the UP. I think they're talking about the UP users group. I think we should, it'd be nice if somebody would take the horns and start one, in the lower half of the state here, for places to go to. So there would be at least two, because traveling up to Luce or Chippewa is sometimes a little bit of a, because they get together. Sometimes they do it on the web, but mostly they're doing it on, they get together physically. But, I'd love to see that. And I'd like to help support that as I can, but one of the things is as soon as I show up, it changes the dynamic of the group, and I don't want to show up on those. But I want to support them as best I can.
A couple of more comments. We are also very happy with Cogitate. It has been discussed here, and we will not be switching unless Cogitate makes us.
You're going to switch, yes. You have to switch to Cogitate. Yeah, I understand, and I appreciate those comments. It's it makes me feel a little more confident that I'm not going to have to go off and make software for llama farming kind of a thing. So it's like I said, right now we're still dedicated to road commissions, and like I said, for the next year I don't see that changing, because it's going to take time for the state to decide what they're going to do with the money. It'll take time then for CRAM to decide what they're going to do when they get the funds, how they're going to distribute it. So there's a lot of time that's going to happen in between now and then. I don't want to sit there and say, well, we're not going to do anything until it's all resolved. That's crazy. We want to continue to make the best solutions and the best product we can, and as well continue to do the support that you need. All right, next.
Another person says we are not switching.
Okay, thank you.
And then I will say, as the vice chair of the Finance and HR Committee, we don't all support the issue. The scheduling of the session was not promoted by us.
I understand as the chair and the vice chair, what I can't remember what she said or they said. I understand is that his position, however, it still happened. I know you don't support it, but it still happened. It was still allowed to go on. So, that's where I kind of say, all right, there wasn't a strong enough objection to say we don't want to even do this at all. If you get kind of the following understanding of that. Either that or I misinterpreted your comment.
I could repeat it if you want to hear it again.
Yeah, read it again.
I will say, as the vice chair of the Finance and HR Committee, we don't all support the issue. The scheduling of that session was not promoted by us.
Okay, so
It's coming from the top at CRA.
So how does CRA have any kind of top information to be able to do that?
They don't.
They are controlling the entire conference.
Well, that's the problem. The committee needs to take the conference back like it used to be.
Yep.
And then you had topics that applied to us, not what CRAM wants us to hear.
Yep, that's what we're trying to do.
Okay, so I prefer, when push comes to shove in those meetings, shotguns loaded with rock salt. It really helps.
George, you've met me.
I know I have. Yeah, I understand, it isn't what, however, the other half of the side of the fence, I'm understanding, does want something new.
You're correct. That's what's causing the problem.
Yeah, that's what I'm understanding. And they don't, for whatever reason, Cogitate is like some kind of evil, demonic piece of software that is going to infect their devices. That's the part I don't understand. Somehow Precision has, made them understand that somehow we are some kind of evil, software company that doesn't care and doesn't, I've heard a whole slew of things come out of, Precision users that it's like, okay, I don't try to, when I hear those things, I very, very rarely try to, respond. Because I already know, there's no way I'm going to be able to convince them that we're better than Precision. We're different. That's the first thing to understand.
Couple more comments here.
Go ahead.
Thank you, George. I don't think it's necessary at all. I just think you deserve a chance to rebut the committee arguments on why they're doing this.
When can I do, how can I do that? I mean, I've sent messages to CRAM about it. The response I have is, well, it's on the agenda. I've asked about why Cram was doing it. The only answer I get is because the committee wanted it. So where does it, where do I go with that? I got no recourse. I'm just the only recourse I have is my $300 a year, whatever it is. Paul would know the right number, but it used to be $300 a year Cram association fees. That's the only course I have that, I can vote with, is just not pay the fees.
Then a comment related to the Cogitate user group.
Yep.
We meet at Emmett CRC and there is about 26 people on the mailing list. I have talked with Brett about it.
Okay.
So you can email CRC. She says you can email me at Emmett CRC. We will put you on the list if you're already on it.
Right, but I don't want Cogitate on the list because as soon as we show up, the questions then start being pointed to us, and I want you guys to work through the questions yourself. If you want me there for a specific time, I'll be glad to show up at a specific time, and we can then I can then answer questions there. But you know what I'm saying? I don't want this to be a Cogitate thing. I want this to really come from you guys.
Another comment. I think she meant others who want to join, not Cogitate.
Thank you. Yes, definitely. Everybody should join it if they want. If we just have one big one, that's fine too. I think it's important that you guys meet regularly. It's very helpful for new people because we've got a series of retiring coming up in the next year of just a wealth of knowledge that's going to be then turned and it's not like we have it's kind of like if you look at the age gap, there's a big gap here. We got 50 and we got 35. There's no 42s and 43s that have been here for 15 years kind of thing coming in.
And then the last comment that we have is related to your llama farming. The comment is llama farming.
Yeah, llama farming software. how much llama fur do you get per yield and things like that? How much do you spend on feed? What's the gross sale? Yeah. There's days when I think like that. It's like, why don't I just raise llamas? But I'm here for you guys, you know that. And and I know you want us, and I know you want to keep us, but it still feels hard sometimes when we get through these conversations where software committees are trying to get like I said, I don't know what happened during that Wednesday meeting. So it's more of a, are they saying you have to change? Are they, is Cram saying you must change? Or are they saying these are just options if you do? Kind of that's the tone I want to make sure that they're not saying you must, you have to. We're only going to support road commissions that do kind of a thing. I want to make sure that it's an option.
We do Linus is optional.
Yeah, for now. The thing I know about a couple of things that happened to us several years ago, just so you understand where I'm coming from, is we used to have a voter registration software, and then the state went off and did the same thing. They bid it out to a company to provide the Michigan State voter registration, and we didn't win the bid, obviously. And then they said, you no longer can use any other software but the state software. So it's like that kind of worries me when state money gets involved. I get concerned that the state will then indicate, it's a legal requirement. You have to use one of their approved softwares.
Denise would have no problem doing that to you, George, just so you know.
Yeah. I know. And, so it's like, what can I do? All I can do is put my fingers into the bid pile and see what happens. But it's, it's just it's a shame. This wouldn't be me saying you have to change it. It'd be the state. It just seems a shame, with all that we do and with all the support and knowledge that we have, just say, oh, you're gonna have to use some crappy place. All right, well, it's 12:20, 5 minutes over. I don't want to be a stickler for time, but if anybody needs to move on, please go ahead and, you can disconnect from the conference. I want to give you a good, an out time here because I only scheduled it to 12:15. But I'll stay online here for anybody else who has more questions. Thank you again for attending, and we'll hopefully be able to do this again next year. Maybe even at the CRAM meeting.
You are now working smarter with ProFund Accounting. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more content like this.